I call this meeting of the Central Florida Facilitators Toastmasters Club 9958 to order. Thank you all for being here tonight. If you have phones or other electronic devices that make noise, mark that includes your pager. Please put them on silent now. Let's see. We have a guest tonight, but he's been here before. We've got a few guests actually. So we don't need to talk about the restrooms. At Toastmasters, we provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater confidence and personal growth. Through this mission, each Toastmaster gains a clear understanding of the club's purpose, and the organization as a whole benefits from a shared set of values and goals. Please help me welcome our thought and pledge leader for this evening, who just found out 47 seconds ago, Jonathan Dunn. Unfortunately, when I was doing my stair climbing yesterday, I was watching The Karate Kid, and Mr. Miyagi was on, and I happened to get the thought, well, I just randomly wrote it down because it was a great thought for the day. So this comes to you from Mr. Miyagi, Noriyuki Pat Morita. It's really good too. Negative actions cause suffering and pain. Let me repeat that. Negative actions cause suffering and pain. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's please give a warm round of applause to our President, Advanced Communicator Bronze, Mark Lockery. We coordinated tonight.
We just came from a talent show. We are going to cut this meeting off at 8 o'clock tonight because we have officers planning meeting. So we're going to hop right into things here. We have, tonight's theme is It's a Small World. And before we get into that, I'd like to just go over real quick and acknowledge we have a couple guests in our midst tonight. Bob, you've been here before, but you are considered a guest, so welcome. We're glad to have you back. And then we have a returning guest, Richard. Richard, it's been a while since you've been here. If you could just stand up and give us a quick couple of seconds, introduce yourself to the rest of the members here, we'd appreciate it.
Richard Sapp. I have came about a year and a half ago at this point now, and recently switched careers that will now allow me more freedom to come on a regular basis. That is the goal and the hope. So,
cool. All right, welcome. Glad to have you here. We are called the Facilitators for three reasons. We are sponsored by the Central Florida chapter of the American Society of Training and Development, the premier organization for professional facilitators. A good facilitator needs to be strong at communication and an effective leader. And Toastmasters, we are all about communication and leadership. To facilitate means to make things easy and possible, and we here tonight want to make things as easy and as possible for all of you in attendance. We have a couple changes on our agenda. Stephen Morgan has graciously accepted the roles of timer and supervisor of elections. So you can pen those in. Those are our two changes for the agenda tonight. Our theme tonight, again, is It's a Small World. And I thought about this because I remember growing up in rural Ohio, and when I was young, there wasn't a whole lot going on outside of my town that I was interested in. Even the next town over was, in my opinion, a different country. But as I grew older and joined the military and started traveling around to other states and countries, I really started to learn what else the world had to offer. And I just want a show of hands, how many people in this room here were not born in Florida? A lot. How many people here were born in a different country?
Really?
How many people here know somebody that immigrated from a different country to here, a spouse or a relative? So you can see it's a melting pot, and as communication grows and as it becomes easier to communicate with other parts of the world, it actually seems like it is shrinking, even though physically it's not. I'll go into that in a little more in detail in a couple minutes, but first, let's get through our functionary introductions tonight. Tonight, our grammarian is Jay Majors. So Jay, if you could introduce us to the word of the day and let us know about your role this evening.
And welcome to fellow Toastmasters and guests. Glad to see you. The word of the day tonight is rinky-dink. I thought it rather appropriate for It's a Small World. So let me tell you about rinky-dink. Rinky-dink is an adjective. It is inconsequential, amateurish, or generally inferior quality. Small time, a rinky-dink college. He plays with some rinky-dink team. Oh, let me see, who might that be? Maybe UCF this year, right? Outmoded or shabby, backward, antiquated, a rinky-dink airline. Uh-oh, who knows one of those? A person or thing that is rinky-dink. Okay. As grammarian, I have chosen the word which is rinky-dink. I will keep track of those who use the word of the day, those who have a chance to speak and do not use the word. It's going to cost you, and I'm treasurer, so I'll put my thumb on what it costs you, all right? For those who are members, it's 25 cents. Guests and members who have not given their speech will not have to pay their icebreaker. I will also listen for imaginary and exceptional use of vocabulary and grammar, and at the end of the meeting, I'll report on grammar usage and suggest where I see improvements can be made.
Thank you.
That's
For our timer this evening, we go to Stephen Morgan. If you could tell us about your role this evening.
As a timer, I will be giving you the visual signals for your timing windows. Green will come on at the beginning of your window, yellow halfway through, and red at the end of your window. To qualify for the best speaker and best evaluator, you must reach at least 30 seconds before your window. For table topics, you must reach at least the 1 minute beginning of the window. And you can't go more than 30 seconds over. So please make sure to reach your window so we have something to vote for today.
I'm 7 to 9 minutes.
That helps, thank you.
Our counter this evening was Susan Morgan.
My job is to keep track of audible crutches such as and double clutches, which is the repetition of a word while the speaker, I always do that, speaker searches for their next thought. I will also note sentences strung together with bridge words like and or so, and I will not sound the buzzer when these infractions are heard because I never get a chance to do that, but I'll try. The fine for each infraction is 10 cents. Guests and members who have not yet given their icebreaker speech will not be buzzed or fined, but I'll keep track of the infractions and know about it later. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you. And yes, I could have asked him to do both at the same time, but since I love watching Stephen stand up, I'd like to see him stand up again and tell us about Supervisor of Elections.
Which way do you like it? As Supervisor of Elections, after I've given you your timers reports, I'll be able to run around during that minute to collect your votes for Best Speaker, Best Table Topics, Best Evaluator, and at some point after that, Most Improved, for which I will then put the name on for the President to announce at the end of the meeting. I'll only vote in the case of a tie. Please make sure that you are legible when you write your vote. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you.
Mr. Toastmaster, do you want me to do
No, I think
You
Steve.
think it's okay? All right.
Talk about it being a small world. I met my wife in 2004 on the internet. She was actually living in a small island in the Philippines called Cebu. And the only reason she had internet access is because her mom was a doctor. So a lot of people in her town didn't even have electricity or internet access. So we talked for 2 years online, and after I went and visited her, we decided that we would get married. So she flew over and we got married in Michigan. And after 2 years living in Michigan, I decided I had enough of the cold weather. We were going to move south. We picked Florida for no apparent reason other than throwing a dart at the map. We didn't know anybody down here. We just wanted to head south. 2 years after we moved here, we decided to attend this little church that's about 1.5 miles from our house. And while we were there, I met a nice old man who was also Filipino. He was a retired doctor. And then talking with him, it turns out that he was a doctor in Cebu, and he knew my wife's family.
Yeah, man.
Not only did he know my wife's family, but he was the doctor that delivered my wife
Wow.
when she was born in 1975.
Holy.
So, talk about it being a small world. Here we are, worlds apart, and how many people have met the doctor that delivered them?
I think we all did we not?
Later on in life, I should say. Even though it's a small world, there is approximately 196 countries in the world. The UN has 193 members. The US and some other countries don't recognize Taiwan as a country. There are over 7,000 living languages, according to Ethnologue, which is widely considered the most extensive catalog of languages of the world. This is a changing number because languages die out as their speakers die and don't replenish. There's approximately 915 languages dying right now that have fewer than 10,000 people that still speak them. The most spoken languages in the world, according to listverse.com, Mandarin Chinese has over 1 billion people that speak it. English is second with 508 million, and Hindi is third with 497 million. Rosetta Stone, which is a popular software for learning foreign languages, offers more than 30 languages. And according to their CEO and president, Steve Swad, the most popular inside the US is Spanish, German, and French. Outside of the US, the language that's purchased the most is English. The least popular is Swahili. Some of the most populous countries in 2015, China with 7.26 billion.
No, that'd be the entire.
That's the entire. Yeah, I don't have the exact one for China. India is second though with 1.37, and the United States is third with approximately 321 million. Russia is the largest country area-wise with over 17 million square kilometers. The smallest area, which is actually considered a country by many, is Vatican City, which is only 0.44 square kilometers. So Russia can hold close to 39 million Vatican cities in this area. We'd like to launch into the prepared speeches because, as I said, we're on the timeline tonight, so we're going to streamline through this and make sure we get everything accomplished that we need to accomplish. If you look on the back of your agenda, I've decided to include the speakers' projects along with their objectives and an area for you to take notes if you'd like to take notes. Do you not have an agenda, Tim? Okay, I'll get you one. There's some up here, actually, up here.
There's one.
Can you grab me one, please?
Get two, yeah.
Share.
Wrote all over mine.
I just want to share that.
Our first speaker this evening just earned her ATM silver and has a goal to complete her ATM gold by December. So please bug her on how she's doing if she fails to sign up for speaking assignments this year.
He's going to do it by June.
Sarah comes to us.
That's it, you're going to get it.
Sarah comes to us from a small village in England, Kettering, I believe. The rural village has a couple of great pubs, great family, and a bunch of sheep. Tonight, Sarah is speaking out of the specialty speech manual on project number 2. It is Uplift the Spirit, with the speech, Greet Life with a Smile. Please help me welcome Sarah Hunt.
Mr. Toastmaster.
Stephen, can we have 1 minute on the clock, please, for us to write some comments for Sarah? I really thought there was a bear attack. I really did.
True story. There was somewhere.
Thank you. If you could reset the lights, please. Our next speaker kept her maiden name Hill when she married in 1975. Not because she was a women's lib supporter, though she was, nor did she keep it because her middle name was never used. She kept it because of her family's heritage. Her speech entitled, One Man, One Plane, World Peace, will best explain the significance of Hill and why this small word is part of the free world we live in. Please welcome speaker Gail Hill-Smith.
Good evening.
Evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
As my title indicates, one man, one plane, world peace. I come from a family of men who served in the armed forces. My grandfather in particular was involved with the armed forces. The Army Air Corps actually is what it was called before it became the Air Force. And if you all cannot see this, I would recommend you change seats. But tonight, I wanted to give you an idea of how one person, in this case one man, and an airplane could bring about world peace. This picture indicates the Boeing B-299 plane, which was a prototype of what would become another plane. But the significance of this prototype was that it had new features, unlike other planes that were in this aerospace infancy. Control locks were an added feature. It was a 4-engine heavy bomber up to this point. 2 engines were the guideline. This plane was high speed, considered high speed, averaging 200 to 250 miles an hour. And also, it had a high altitude endurance, as well as an endurance speed of 6 to 10 hours. Now, be mindful, again, of the evolution of the aircraft. The B-299 was also added with new armaments, such as an automatic pilot, a 2-way radio, believe it or not. and a radio homing device, as well as customized wheels and tires for the size that this plane was and the wingspan. I show you a picture of the cockpit. Again, it looks very, very crude as compared to today's cockpits. But it's significant, and I will tell you why.
What year is
This is the man. This is my grandfather, Lawyer Peter Hill. Also from England, Bristol specifically. And here's a picture of him in 1934-35. He was stationed at Wright Field, which was in Ohio. It's now called Wright-Patt Air Force Base. At that time, Wright Field. He was considered one of the leading test pilots. He was called on many, many times to do just that, be a pilot and these experimental airplanes before they went on to mass production, if they did or not. As I mentioned, he was in the Army Air Corps, and he was the first pilot of the Army Air Corps to test the B-299. The other picture is my grandfather as a major. He is a captain in the first picture, a major in the last picture. My grandfather was the pilot, and his co-pilot was the Boeing pilot who helped to design and fly the 299, flew out from Boeing to join my grandfather for the first test flight and for the military. His name was Leslie Towers. Unfortunately, my grandfather and Leslie Tower, along with 3 other crew, were in that ill-fated flight. They took off about 9:30 in the morning on October 30th, 1935, and because of some of the new design, the new implementations in the plane, witnesses say that as the plane ascended, the lower end of the plane seemed to hang low, and the nose seemed to go higher. In other words, it wasn't a steady ascension. Some of my research showed that at 100 feet, some of my research showed at 300 feet. Regardless, in that time frame, the plane was not navigable. My grandfather pitched to 180 degrees, and we think that this pitch was trying to save his crew because he is on the pilot side. In any event, in minutes after taking off, this multi-ton aircraft came crashing down, ultimately killing my grandfather 3 hours. Brain concussion as well as severe burns. Leslie Tower, his co-pilot on the other hand, he was pulled from safety, was in the hospital, and was interviewed before he lost his life about 3 days later. The other 3 crewmen, they all walked away from the crash site. But despite the crash, the military was very optimistic for the success of this plane. But despite the crash, they felt that it might be doomed. But in investigation, they found out that it was not a pilot error, it was not a mechanical error, but simply one thing that failed. The locking system was not unlocked, a new feature. And from this flight and this crash, we now have the checklist in place. The checklist that is adopted worldwide, and any future tests, any flights that you are on, you go through a checklist to prevent something like this. Needless to say, when they saw that it was indeed a simple item that prevented this plane to proceed, the military did go ahead and order a plane. The next revision was referred to as the B-17, the Bomber 17, and had the nickname the Flying Fortress because, again, of its size and its capabilities of carrying the amount of bombs that it did. You can see that I indicated over 12,677 of these planes were manufactured. And because of that, because they were able to fly for long hours, carry the tonnage that they did in the bombs, that during the World War II of 43 to 45, this plane led ultimately to the end of the war because of its accurate strikes. In 1935, about the time that my grandfather was killed, military also had Ogden Air Depot. But in 1948, the depot became known as Hill Air Force Base, named after my grandfather and all that he represented for the Air Force, for this plane, and for world peace. Very proud to be a Hill. Mr. Toastmaster.
Stephen, can we have 1 minute on the clock, please, for comments for Gail and her speech? While you guys are writing your comments, I'll just give you some trivia, some other known facts from around the world. The highest mountain above sea level, we all know, is Mount Everest. But the tallest mountain from base to peak is actually Mount Mauna Kea in Hawaii. And the point on Earth, which is closest to the moon, is actually on top of Mount Chimborazo in Ecuador because of where it sits on the Earth. Some weird celebrations around the world. In Australia, they have a festival where they hurl tuna fish. It is called the Tunarama, and it is the highlight of their festival, tossing tuna fish. And Sarah from England, have you ever heard of the cheese rolling festival?
I have not partaked in the cheese rolling festival.
Ah, you've heard of it though?
No, never heard of it.
It's in Gloucester.
Oh, Gloucester cheese.
Yes, they roll cheese down a hill, and everybody rolls down the hill after it, and the first one to cross the line at the bottom of the hill gets the cheese.
Okay.
In Laza, Spain, there's a festival that involves throwing muddy rags at one another. While this is going on, young men will run up the mountain and collect fire ants. They bring the fire ants back down, get them agitated by dousing them with vinegar, and then throw them into people's faces. They do this once a year. All right, thank you, Stephen. Can we get a timer's report for our two speakers this evening?
Mr. Toastmaster, Sarah had a required time of 8 to 10 minutes, spoke for 8 minutes 22 seconds. Gail had a required time, she requested of 7 to 9 minutes and spoke for 9 minutes 43 seconds. So she did not qualify, but Sarah did, and there's no need to vote at this time.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. How many people have eaten oysters? How many people have heard of Rocky Mountain oysters? Have you had Rocky Mountain oysters? You have? Rocky Mountain oysters, from what I looked up, is actually deep fried bull testicles.
That's correct.
delicacy to some probably. In China, if you have something called dragon in the flame of desire, it sounds really cool, but it's actually roasted yak's penis. And there's another delicacy over there. So that's some of the food that we eat here in the United States is weird. Wait till you go outside the borders. At this time, we'll transition to table topics. Our table topics master this evening is Toastmaster Tim Rickey. Tim is our Vice President of Membership, AKA the Recruiter. Tim celebrates 18 years as a Toastmaster this month. I would also like to mention the handsome suit he is wearing. It's a tribute to the quality of the cloth, the skill of the tailor, and the generosity of the Salvation Army. Please welcome Tim Rickey.
If you want some great intros, you get Pat Williams' book. It's about this thick, and it's got thousands of one-liners and intros for Toastmasters and speakers, and of course that's where that came from. Table topics. So who should we start with? Let's start with Toastmaster.
Would you like to explain what table topics?
That would be a good idea, thank you. Table topics are speaking off the cuff. And by that we mean you give a table topic, and then we call a name and give the table topic. We don't want to give the table topic first because we want to eliminate the time of thinking. So you've got, what's the length of time, Stephen, for our table topic?
1 to 2 minutes.
2 minutes in this club?
1 to 2.
1 to 2 minutes, okay. So that's what it got. You go anywhere you want with this because the questions are asked in that order. So, when you want to laugh, what do you do or who do you turn to? Toastmaster Gills.
When I want to laugh, I turn to my friend Jonathan Dunn. I go to the gym because he always has something crazy to tell me. Much of which I can't repeat in the room. But because I've developed such a thick skin in the last few years, I laugh. And it's great. Now, the other person I turn to, and you'll hear more about this in my speech next week, is my mom. I'm going to talk about how I turned the burden of caregiving into a love affair with my mother, and how I've been looking for fun toys, fun gadgets, fun stuff to share with her. And one of those is I've discovered she loves singing dolls. You can find singing dolls at Walgreens and probably Walmart, but these dolls come out at Halloween and Christmas and Easter, and they sing appropriate songs. They're dogs and bears and different animals. And when the song comes on, their mouth moves and their ears flap up and their tails wag. And I bought Mom a Halloween animal that's a dog with a little devil hat on. And it sings a song that goes like, ooh, ee, ooh, ah, ah, ting, ting, what a little bing, bang. Ooh, ee, ooh, ah, ah, it sings the whole song. Well, I played it for her and I started dancing and she started laughing. And there's nothing like your parent, who is 98 years old, laughing at a little toy to have a good time and to change your attitude and point of view. Well, it's way past Halloween and she won't give me the dog back. Mr. Tabletop Expenser.
When you did a song, I'll remember from you. Well, some of us
Forgot how it
remember.
started.
Witch doctor.
Witch doctor. That's right, the witch doctor.
Who is the best boss you've ever worked for? Mark.
You know, I'm going to pass since I do a lot of speaking with that. I'd like to give someone else.
Mr. Tabletop Master and fellow Toastmasters, who is my favorite boss? Appropriate question, because I hate my boss now. Absolutely hate him. He is the opposite of everything I've ever done. And I'm so glad that I met him at the end of my career instead of the beginning of my career. And the reason why I love this, really almost all my bosses at AT&T were phenomenal. They'd tell me what to do and I would do it. You know, I would like give them, like, I had one boss tell me, whatever you invest in Gloria, you'll get it back fivefold. That is a compliment. That vice president also paid for me to get my executive MBA at Rollins College, picked up the whole tab. So let me go back to my unfavorite boss. Micromanager, has always been a nonprofit, could care less if I have an MBA. And I've told him, I don't know how many times that I've worked for a Fortune 500, he could care less. But my bosses, they were so great. And the one line I remember is when I came from Kansas City to Orlando. And my boss told me, because I was telling him, oh, I'm going to lunch, I'm going here, whatever. He said, Gloria, you're a big girl now. He says, you don't have to tell me all those things, just do the job. Mr. Toni Thomas.
Thank you. How are we on time? 2 more?
You got 6 more minutes on the agenda.
What smells remind you of your childhood? Susan?
What smells remind me of my childhood? You know, I can't even fathom that at this point in my life. I'm trying to think of any scent that might actually bring back a memory from when I was little. There was a candle that was in my grandmother's house, and that brings back memories. I smell that smell, and it reminds me of my grandparents' home. It reminds me of my parents, my sister, of being at home together with a big fire in the fireplace. I don't know what that scent is. It was a candle, and I actually found this candle, this scent in a candle quite a few years ago now, and I still have the little can that it's in, and there's just a little tiny bit of the wax left, and every now and again I'll go in there and smell it. But I would like to know what that scent is from my childhood, because I have no clue what it is. It's just a really nice scented candle that my grandparents had in their house. And I think that it would be lovely to find that out, so maybe I'll bring the can in one day and let everybody smell it and tell me what it is. Mr. Table Topics.
Thank you. Our last question. Spending time imagining an optimistic future for yourself, can you boost your levels of happiness today? What was your favorite dream about your future? Stephen.
Mr. Table Topics Master, the dream I had of the future was one day being in the position of having the big family of my own and the people around me that would always be looking up to me for me to be able to take care of them, to help them grow, and to help myself grow along the way. That didn't go quite the way as planned, though. As most dreams don't, sometimes they morph into very odd parodies of themselves. Having gone through one divorce, eventually getting into another marriage, but having to deal with a split household for my son and her children as well, it's been a difficult road to follow. So I had to find other dreams to seek after that. I always enjoyed when I got into hypnosis to want to do more than that, so then it was trying to find a way to help people more with that skill to improve their lives. And those people who want it, it's easy to help them, and I've managed to help those people who want it. It's hard to find the people who actually want it, sadly enough. It seems there aren't enough people out there with dreams that they think they can achieve, or that they realize that they can ask for help for it. And that's always the toughest part. Asking for help from the people who may be able to help you. Now, amongst this crew, that's not so hard. You wouldn't be here if you didn't at least have the idea you can get help from somebody. Because that's what you came to Toastmasters for, to get some bit of help, some bit of a nudge to work forward. But we need more of that out in the world, so I'm hoping for a better future for the world itself, but somewhere along the line it means we're going to have to be willing to say, can you give me a little bit of help here so that we can find something better forward? And that somebody can in return say, I've got a way to help you that will get you there. So we need a little bit more of that for a brighter future. Mr. Table Topics now.
Can we have a timer's report, please?
For table topics, Tony's when you turning to Jonathan for a good laugh for 1:59. Gloria's best boss turned into worst boss for 1:32. Susan's smell that she decided to keep lingering around with for 1:24. And my favorite future dream went to 2 minutes 6 seconds. Everyone qualifies.
Thank you.
So I'll come around at this time.
We turn left turn. Control the left turn.
Notes too if you got them.
Stephen will now come around and get your vote for best table topic speaker. 2 more quick festivals to talk about real quick. One in the United States, in Talkeetna, Alaska, the annual Moose Dropping Festival. Involves dropping loads of moose poop onto targets from hot air balloons. We do this every year. And since this Sunday is the 4th Sunday in January, coincidentally, the 4th Sunday in January in Maganesis de la Provenza, Spain, is annual goat tossing day. A young boy finds a goat, ties it up, and takes it to the top of the church and tosses it off the belfry, where the local townspeople will try to catch him. Every 4th Sunday in January. At this time, we'll transition into our evaluation portion of the meeting. Our general evaluator this evening learned something she didn't know on her trip to Europe last year. Holland is not another name for the Netherlands. Holland is a region in the Netherlands, much like Seminole County is a region in Florida. This year, Toni and her friend Karen from Chicago will be vacationing in Florida, likely the St. Augustine area. So let her know your favorite sites and restaurants. Please welcome our general evaluator, Toni Gail.
I'm your general evaluator, and I don't have anything funny to say, so we'll just move on with the meeting. I'm trying so hard. As your general evaluator, I will introduce each of our 2 evaluators who will let the speakers know their opinion about the strengths and weaknesses of the speech. We'll also hear from the functionaries and get reports, and then I will also evaluate the meeting and come up with the things we did well as perhaps some ideas on what we could do better in the future. Our first evaluator describes evaluation as the perfect blend or perfect storm of table topics and presenting a prepared speech. He's thankful to have such seasoned speakers in this club who are able to provide extremely helpful feedback and perspectives in order for him to reach his own developmental goals. While providing evaluations is not always easy, and he often finds it challenging to find suggestions and recommendations for our speakers, he recognizes how critical feedback is in order to foster learning, growth, and development, which both the evaluator and speaker benefit from. This will be no rinky-dink evaluation segment of the meeting. To evaluate the speech of Sarah Hunt, please welcome Roy Whitted.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, and especially Miss Hunt. Sarah, let me first start off by telling you you're one of my favorite speakers. You really have a commanding presence up here. You're confident. You take control of the room. You're very easy to understand. I think I have ADD, so I'm able to follow along with you very well and actually not start to doze off or zone out. As always, you delivered exceptionally on delivery, vocal variety. They're all very good. You got up in front of the room, told your story. I think you always do a knockout job with that. The content was very precise and again, easy to understand. A couple of suggestions I have. First and foremost, maybe start off with a smile or exude a little bit more enthusiasm. I know I was kind of expecting, some kind of oomph in the beginning, and it started off with a little bit of a sad story about some of the things that you encountered and the accident that you got into. And I almost felt bad for you. I wanted to come up and give you a big bear hug and try to make you feel better, but to me the opening lingered a little bit. It almost felt like the opening was probably the longest part of the speech. So I'd probably recommend maybe shortening the opening a little bit and just kind of set the tone, and then spend more time on the inspirational piece, so really the meat and potatoes of the speech, and just show more enthusiasm, smile, and be a little bit more uplifting during that inspirational piece. And then the closing I think was fine, but it just seemed like the opening might have been a little bit too long. Just maybe pare that down a little bit. And other thing I wanted to notice, just kind of a technical aspect within the actual documentation or the what do you call these things, the books. I think we're supposed to pick a topic that fit a specific category. And I don't know that the topic necessarily fit one precisely, so just take a look at it. Just a minor technicality. But I love the stories. I love the stories about the flip-flop and the kids. I picked up your quote from your father, and really my main takeaway was it's important to put things into perspective. That was kind of my main takeaway from your speech. And how good we really do have it. I mean, I think you could have gone around the room and picked on people about how good we do have it. I mean, we're not all as well dressed as Jonathan Dunn. Gail's not going to starve. Maybe just mix a little humor in there. But I thought you engaged with the audience very well. I heard some laughter. I thought everybody was paying attention. I didn't zone out, which is obviously a huge positive coming from me. So as always, great job. Thanks, Sarah, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Roy. Great job. Some very good comments there. Our second evaluator this evening joined the facilitators in 2012, even though it seems a lot longer.
Good funny.
And proved it is indeed a small world. Upon first meeting him, I hoped the world would expand and swallow him up so he would go away. I didn't like him. Did you? I was wrong, and glad it is a small world. I would go on an e-ticket ride with him anywhere. Why, you ask? He loves giving back. It is why he loves evaluating. It is his chance to give his love and experience to another speaker and help them go from good
To great.
to great. Here to take the speech of Gail Hill-Smith, from great to simply awesome, is my friend, Jonathan David Dunn, ACG.
One man, myself, not a plane, but a plan. Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, and especially you, Gail, we are going to use a checklist, and we are going to fly around, and we are going to take a really great speech that really informed, as Toni said, from good to great. Borrowing from your title, One Man, One Plane, World Peace, which masterfully used the power of three, a technique that almost can't be matched, my checklist is also going to use the power of three. We're going to examine the structure of your speech. We're going to examine the content of your speech, as well as the delivery. all Toastmasters in the room, when crafting a speech, those are 3 areas that you need to begin and end with. Gail, at the beginning of your speech, you stood up here and you channeled your inner, God rest his soul, Robin Williams, and like Good Morning Vietnam said, "Good morning." Really enjoyed your energy. But what I enjoyed more was when you got into the body of your speech. Giant planes, World War II era, thinking of Sarah's speech about greeting the day with a smile and thinking about the sacrifice that went into your presentation, that went into what your grandfather did. It was really awesome, and you really captured it well with your stories. You really captured it well with your stories. And then you closed it very succinctly with "very glad to be a Hill." I was very glad to learn a little bit of the lineage of your name in that. And I could see why you closed it down that way, because I would as well. Baskin Robbins is a great ice cream shop, and they have 33 flavors, lots of choices. There's lots of choices you could have used to start that speech. But when I think about how powerful of an era that is, and how well I liked your Robin Williams beginning, I would have liked to see you start with a story. Specifically the one where the plane was unnavigable would have been a fantastic, riveting beginning. Then we can move on to the content. Gail's pictures spoke 1,000 words. If you happen to look at them, they were absolutely fantastic, and I loved the coloring. Point number 2 in your content. I loved when you said crude cockpit. It was a minor use of alliteration, another one of my favorite tactics. It was complete verbal shorthand. She didn't need to say any more than crude cockpit, and if you looked at those pictures, it really told the story and was very scary. One thing I would have liked to have seen you do better in your content, though. Can you imagine being in a flying fortress? Can you imagine you couldn't navigate in it? I'd like to have seen a few more U's in your speech. It would have created a little more intimacy versus like a teacher-student type thing. Moving on to delivery, you had a professional appearance, you had great energy, your usage of your hands was excellent, and now for the feedback. Steve Jobs had very few words on his slides. He didn't want people reading the slides. Possibly just something to think about. Gail, well done in informing us in a non-rinky-dink fashion. I'm proud to be done. Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Roy and Jonathan. Well done. I learned a lot, and I hope everybody else took notes on their comments. Let's go right into the functionary reports.
Timers report.
Oh, timers report. Thank you. That's a functionary report. Thank you.
Madam General Evaluator, Roy Wittig evaluation, both evaluations should have been 2 to 3 minutes. Roy went for 2:49 and Jonathan's went to 3 minutes 25, so both do qualify. Come around with a bucket for more votes and comment slips if there are any. Everything okay?
While you're voting, also vote for the individual that you feel has the most improved this evening. Okay. It can be any of the Toastmasters that had a speaking role. Susan, how about an Oconner's report?
I would love to give you an
I think you have a report, even though I didn't hear the buzzer.
No, you did not hear the buzzer. I almost got the buzzer one time, and it just didn't work out for me. We did have a few rinky-dink words and phrases around here. Mark, I noticed one double clutch and a tongue click, so you might want to be aware of that. I also included tongue clicks, and in our bridge words, now, I heard a few nows and buts, so just so you're aware of that. Jay, I noticed a double clutch. Stephen, I noticed 2 bridge words. Sarah, 1 tongue click and 1 bridge word. Gail, you had 1 double clutch, 2 bridge words, and no, you do not have a tongue click. Toni, you had a tongue click and a bridge word. Gloria, you had 3 bridge words. Roy, you had quite a few ahs and ums, a few double clutches, and a bridge word. So if you want to know the complete tally, I'll just give it to you later.
checks.
I'll go to video.
Okay. And
We need your
Jonathan
money.
Dunn,
We
you
need your
had
money.
1 bridge word. And of course, I am sure that I must have given a little bit myself, but I didn't catch myself.
Thank you.
So that is my report.
Those of you that were named in Susan's report, please check with her to find out how much money you owe the club. Next, we will hear from Jay with our Functionaries report.
Well, it was an interesting night. First of all, the people who used the word that at least I heard, and you can tell me if I missed someone: Sarah Hunt, Gail Hill Smith, Tim Rickey, Toni Giddles, Susan Morgan right at the end, and Jonathan Dunn. I didn't hear Gloria use it, or Stephen. Roy, I didn't hear you, and Mark, I didn't catch it, but I feel like you had to use it. And it's such a fun word. How could we not? Colorful language. I want to say this. Sarah's speech was full, for me, of all kinds of colorful language. You took me back to a place when my daughter was little, playing with all of her friends, and some of the things, your descriptive terms, were amazingly cool for me. I couldn't even keep track of them all. How you talked about when the man came over and said, "Does she have a pink dress on?" and he's with the soccer ball. You guys might not think that's special, but for me, it puts me in that place when my daughter was playing on the playground and running around. And your speech was filled with these things. I liked, as you got toward the end, you used the words, "we're dragging backwards." What a motivational speech. That hit me real hard in what you're doing. We're dragging backwards. Move forward. So those were, you had many interesting terms. Gail, I like the crude cockpit thing. That was, yes.
Gail, I like it
pictures,
too.
the pictures there made you realize it too, and made you feel like, oh, well, what am I sitting in? So that was very good. Toni, when you did your table topics and you sang that song, and I can't even say what it was, but it was cool. Gloria, just do the job. How many times have I thought that? How many times have I said that to somebody that I had to supervise? That's cool. Stephen, split household. That's a different way to describe how your home, how your family is, that I really liked. Jonathan, how you used the power of 3 and the 3 content, structure, delivery that we all need to know. You reminded me of what I need to think about when I evaluate what I need to think about. Content, structure, and delivery. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Jay. Some comments on the meeting and how it went. Started on time. I've been watching the clock. Several of us have been watching the clock. We are going to end on time, which is awesome because we have a lot of work to do this evening. So congratulations to our Toastmasters, but everybody makes a difference that has a speaking part, participates in getting the job done on time. John, you always come up with an interesting quote to get us going. Oh, an old hip pocket must be just full of them. Thank you for that.
It's full of something.
It's full of something. Check it out next time I'm at the gym. Okay. Mark, great job as our Toastmaster. interesting theme that we haven't had in the past. You know, you're very professional up here too. You're fun, but you're professional, you know what you're gonna say. I love how prepared you are, or if you're not prepared, you can look prepared. You're kind of a natural, and I thought that from the beginning, but it's fun to watch you up here, I love that. As far as our evaluators are concerned, they both did a really excellent job, and notice how they both gave a lot of strengths. And it's important that we hear our strengths, even if we've been here 11 years. We need to still hear what we're doing well. It helps us grow, it helps us confirm the confidence that we may not always have, but I appreciate whether it's in a whole string like Roy did, you did this, 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 and this, and it was all well, that was a great way to do it, or in any other method that you have. Did you notice that one thing they all, John and Roy brought up was audience interaction. How do you get the audience to participate more? They both mentioned that that would have improved both of the speeches. Now that may not happen all the time, and that's their opinion about it, but I felt that would have livened it up as well, so I agreed with both of your comments. I like the way John adopted Gail's title and content, the airplanes, the checklist, into the beginning of his evaluation. We were taught to do that by Jessica Guthrie, one of our co-founders, who is a winning district evaluation person. It's not absolutely necessary, but doesn't it add a little, it adds some interest. And it's a great way for the audience to get tuned in to what you're about to say. Also, the addition of a little humor, but the engagement with the audience was a big takeaway for me, and I love to put that into my speeches and encourage that a lot. It works well in bigger groups as well, my experience out in the real world. You can do that even if it's 50 people or 100 people. You can get some interaction going as long as everybody can hear what is being said. I got nothing. I got nothing that we could do better. It was a great meeting.
Yeah.
I did not see, Susan, our list for next week's meeting, so I'm still wondering if we can do that better, actually.
Yes, we can.
And I do,
Up to me, I have it in the computer.
Okay, well, we can go through that. I know I'm a speaker, but we can do that. Mark, you can do that. There's an I like to hear the buzzer. It's a preference. For our guests, it's not absolutely necessary. We allow the person that is in that role to decide if they're going to use it. The whole purpose of it is that you catch it as you speak it. As I say an when I hear the buzzer, I may not even know I'm saying it. But if the buzzer goes off, then I'm reminded, and I will slow down a little bit.
I
So
personally
don't-
like to hear it too, but it's challenging for me to do two things.
That's a really good point.
I know.
I purposely did not do it because I don't want
I
to
know.
interrupt, but I would have loved to hear that 12 times tonight.
Yeah.
It would have been
There you
awesome.
go. Okay, well, there's some feedback. And that is part of the challenge of some of these functionary roles, to
To learn how to do it.
learn how to do it for those that want it, be silent for those that feel it's too much of an interruption. I'll turn this meeting over to our president, Mark.
Thank you. Richard, if you wouldn't mind, could you just stand up and tell us what you thought of the meeting tonight?
Having been to other meetings to compare it to, I thought it was very well run. Said I've been to a couple that didn't start and or end on time. This one having done both. I enjoyed both. There was an of the evaluators. Both of the speeches were very well delivered. And I should be back next week. So,
Yeah, baby.
Thank you very much. It is time for awards. They are in, the votes are in.
Mark, are you going to do announcements after the awards?
After the awards, we'll do it
Okay.
after. Okay. Our award, was that?
Me and Steven's also got the schedule up too.
We do have the schedule, he has it up for me.
Oh, okay, so let's go over the schedule now.
You want to go over the schedule right now? All right. Where are we? We don't have a thing yet?
You have a Toastmaster.
Oh, I thought it was me.
I think she just volunteered for Toastmasters.
I thought it was you.
I thought it was you too.
Yeah, I think it's me.
You too?
I
Yeah, you
remember her saying she
two's
was gonna do it, but she
coming,
got back.
and they're gonna give a concert. So, let's see, we've got Roy giving a speech.
I will actually not be here next,
Oh, okay.
I thought I emailed you, but.
Okay, I'll have to check that out. I have Jonathan giving a speech and Toni giving a speech.
So we have two.
So we have at least two.
I'll give a speech next week.
All
Okay,
right.
can you write that down for me? Thank you. We have Gail as table topics.
Right.
I don't see a general evaluator. We have evaluator number 1 is Jay. We still need another evaluator or 2, depending on how many.
Charlie said he would do whatever I talked to him today.
Okay, Charlie.
He's got bronchitis, but he's on medicine. so-
I'll be the
Okay,
evaluator.
he should be better now. Okay.
I'll be evaluator, Susan.
Okay, so Tim and Charlie can evaluate? Well, Charlie can do whatever.
Tim, would you like to
Yeah,
be
we still need all the vote,
evaluator?
the vote counter, awe counter, grammarian, and timer is still open, so
Jay, will you be here?
Jay's already evaluated.
she's
Oh,
the
you're
evaluator.
good, sorry.
You can throw me in wherever you
Anybody
go,
else
so.
want to do any of the
Mark and Sarah?
functionary?
You can throw me in.
No, I wasn't evaluated.
Okay. Okay, so we can put you in like awe counter, grammarian, or something like that, okay.
Okay, we're good for now?
All right, that's, we'll send out an email, hopefully in the next couple of days to get.
Okay, for awards. Best speaker, our best speaker award tonight, Sarah Hunt. Our best table topics award this evening, presented to Stephen Morgan.
Yeah, baby.
Our best evaluator award this evening, Jonathan Earhart Dunn. Our most improved Toastmaster award, Mr. Roy Wig.
There you go.
And the Tim Chastain Award tonight, because signing him up for 2 functionary positions wasn't enough, we made him get up multiple times and skip around the room. Stephen Morgan. I believe, Toni, you have an announcement? 2 announcements?
Oh, no. Yeah, I know. Okay, whenever done. All right, at the New Year's resolution meeting, I forgot to bring an article that was published about 5 years ago that I published. The reference is in here, it's in Praise Magazine, so if you're interested, good stuff. I mean, I did a good job. I read it today, it's really cool. So I have these, if you'd like an article, it's 1 page. The other thing is, it's my birthday next week, so guests and members, if you are here next week at 8:30, after we clean up the room, I'm inviting you all out for food and drink, my treat. So,
We've got a full house next week.
does anybody know if they're coming? I just want to reserve a place. Who's going to be there? And now I got 2 here.
I'll be there.
Us two. We have Emma to deal with.
Yeah,
We'll
what?
have to figure out Emma.
Have your mom pick Emma.
Yeah.
Me and plus 5.
I've got plus 6.
You got +1, honey. What about Emma? She can't come?
She's at school, so,
Oh, at school.
yeah, we have to
Okay.
get her from school,
Alright.
so.
Okay, we can
Grandma
get her
might
in
be
this
able
week.
We might be able to, yeah.
And my mom will be here as well.
Oh, good, oh, nice.
All right.
Because she gave birth to me, so it's her birthday.
That's what I was saying. This is what I'm talking about. Her birthday. Yeah,
Thank you, Toni. Are there any more announcements? Yes, Gail?
Is anybody available to do a contest functionary type role either Friday, December 29th?
December.
Wow.
I bet Happy New Year. January 29th, Mayflower, noon, or on Wednesday morning, 7:15, off University Trailblazers.
I'm gonna compete, so I don't know what I can do, but I would help out in that.
You can do anything at the club.
No, you
Okay.
Is that a different area also?
Right, 'cause, yeah, I like those people over there.
You're
So
even,
you can put,
Mayflower?
yeah,
Mayflower.
Okay.
yeah.
you are actually allowed to judge now. at the
Gail.
club level.
Oh, is that right?
Wow.
I don't like
The 7:15 one, yes.
December 29th?
It's a Friday.
Yeah,
But let's stick to January, Gail.
Wednesday,
Just let me know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We can't even plan an agenda a week in advance. We can't think of it. So, okay, no more announcements? Then the meeting portion of this evening is adjourned.
Yeah.
Toastmaster.